Okay. Hey y'all. So I'm sitting in Cece's Coffee and I'm reading the book of Genesis, and I see how Noah, after the flood, he builds a vineyard, and after he builds the vineyard, he begins to drink wine, and then he gets drunk, and he passes out naked in his tent. And so his son, no, his son Ham, the the father of Canaan, came in by accident and saw him, and he saw that he was basically pilled and he was naked. So he went back and told his two older brothers, and their names were Shem and Japheth. And basically, what he went and did, it was like, hey, yo, y'all need to come check this out, bro. Tad is in there, pilled, and he naked. Like, bruh, like, look at him. He's supposed to be a man of God. He really in there, like, wasted, bruh. And when Japheth and Shem heard this, they didn't respond with any words, but they both went out and they grabbed a robe and they walked backwards inside the tent and they covered him. And as I'm reading this, I'm like, man, God, this is so awesome. But Ham is so messed up. I was reading some commentaries on it because I'm like, man, I wrote down a note as I was reading the fact that Shem and Japheth, they went back and covered him. I wrote a note. I said, you are to cover, not reveal other shortcomings. And I find it very awesome the fact that every version that I read, I was reading the New Living Translation, and then I went to the New King James Version, and then I went to the Amplified Version, and then I went to the Message Version. But all of the versions had the word covered in it. And I thought it was awesome because when others fall short, it's not your job to make fun of them. It's not your job to go tell somebody else about how they fell short. It's your job to cover them, if anything. You cover them in prayer. You cover them in love. It was love, and it was honor that made Shem and Japheth go and cover. Another note that I wrote is that Ham, he neglected the matter of honoring. And the way that the scripture is worded, they introduce Ham as Canaan's father, as Canaan's father. And I was reading a commentary and it said that if you know what you expect from your son in a matter of respect, and if Noah did everything to be an awesome father to you, how in the world could you dishonor him? So then my question becomes, what makes somebody dishonor somebody like that? And I'm sitting up here and I'm like, man, God, that's messed up. Bro, like, that's messed up. You don't do no stuff like that. But then I thought about it. And I said, God, what's funny is, I can't even say that's messed up. Because the generation that we live in, that's something that we would do. Instead of praying and covering our fathers and our mothers, we exploit their shortcomings. My dad always drunk, bro. He can't never get it together. Mama's always out there on the streets. She can't never get her life in order. I'm sick of her doing this. My pastor says all the time, he says, if you have enough energy to complain about something, you can muster up enough energy to pray about it. And that makes so much sense. Because if I can complain about something, clearly it's bothering me. So I should begin to shift the atmosphere so that it may change. Later on at the end of the story, he receives a revelation which could only be from God himself because, of course, he was drunk. But he says he gets the idea that Ham basically dishonored him. And so what he does is he curses Ham, literally. He tells God to curse him and that he will be the servants of his brothers. but he places a blessing on Shem and Japheth. So in honoring, it puts you in position to be blessed. And they didn't even know that they were going to be blessed. And it wasn't even, I'm honoring so that I can be blessed. I'm honoring because I love you. And I'm going to cover you. I'm not going to reveal. When did Ham consider that it was too far? Did he consider that it was too far when he stepped foot into his dad's tent? Because it wasn't his tent. Or did he consider it too far when he saw his dad? Or did he consider it too far even to the point where he told his brothers? But see, that's what happens. And I see it all the time. Even with my friends. Girl, you know she's sleeping around with so-and-so. Girl, she still ain't let that dude go yet. That dude keep doing her wrong. When have you ever took the time to pray that she finally takes her way of escape that God promises to offer us? When do you ever speak the scripture over your sister's life for her deliverance? Because each time you put that event into the atmosphere, it replays itself over and over again. Girl, you know she back with him, so you've automatically and spiritually placed her back in that situation without even knowing. My dad is always drinking. You've automatically created another season, another moment for him to go back and drink. She don't never stop stripping, man. I told her she ain't gotta do that. She ain't gotta get that money. But when have you ever covered her? When have you ever told her and given her value and spoke over her life and encouraged her? When? Bruh, he can't stop eating. Every time I look up, he eating something. When have you ever covered them? Through covering people, you become blessed. Not only you become blessed, they become delivered. But each time you don't cover somebody and each time you exploit them, you place a curse over your life. And that curse, it may be big and it may be small, but it's a wall against your next level. And you may miss something and you may be deprived of something because you failed to honor them. So I guess my challenge in with myself and with my followers is to honor people and honor them enough and love them enough. It was out of love that they did that. They loved their daddy. They couldn't even bear to see him like that. The scripture says they turned their backs and they laid the robe on him. I can't see you like that because I know that's not you. When do you ever see your loved one in a different aspect? That's not how I see you because that's not who you are, because I know that you're better than that. When do you ever see somebody as better than that? Can you see them as better than that? Or is that all that you've programmed your mind to see? Because what you begin to picture is what begins to come out of your mouth, and it is what begins to set in the atmosphere. And I'm not trying to preach, but I know that this is something that our world has made as, so lightly, and it's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. But Bruno, it's the truth. I'm just keeping it real. You already know. You know I'm telling the truth. Just because you're telling the truth doesn't mean that it needs to be said. It doesn't mean that it needs to be said. That's like if my dad, now I don't even want to, if a man, because I'm not going to speak anything into the atmosphere, if a man was to be in a room with his family and another man knew that he was cheating on his wife, it may be true that he's cheating on his wife, but is it appropriate for him to say that out loud while the whole family is around? Or is that a lack of honor? I think we need to realize that, and the Bible talks about the fact that Noah, he was a perfect man. And if you read like the commentaries and if you read the notes at the bottom of Bibles, it tells you not that he got everything right, but that in his seeking it was perfect. I'm going to seek to do your will. I may mess up, but I'm going to continue seeking. I'm going to continue being a man after your own heart. That was perfect. And that's what God expects from us. But sometimes it's some people waiting on you to mess up so they can reveal it. Don't be that person. Because you don't benefit from it. And sometimes people expect you, hey, you're supposed to be perfect. So the second you mess up, I'm ready for you. The second you mess up, I'm ready to exploit you and put you out there. And it's because you've already been given a title of here. And I want to knock you down because you're not up here. But you miss the mark of what's perfect. Perfect is not doing everything right. And yes, Noah made a mistake. He got drunk. But it's a mistake. And I think it was presented to show that even this perfect man made a mistake. Now, there will be some brothers and sisters in your life that you will encounter that will make mistakes, but it's not your job. Even as believers, we're like, oh my gosh, she done went got pregnant. See what she needs. Maybe she was lacking in something. Have you ever considered that? Maybe she went through a period of loneliness. Maybe there's a generational curse that's never been broken. Why don't you seek to find out the answers instead of just taking what you found for the moment and using it to create another improper moment? We need to be mindful of our words, and we need to be mindful of how we promote them and how we present them. I really don't even have too much else to say. I just wanted to talk about that and just to just encourage other people to cover and to honor your fellow brother, your fellow sister, and especially your parents. If you as earthly parents know what you command and what you demand from your children as respect, and you know how hurt you get when they don't respect you, why do we hurt and disrespect God? As a parent, and I'm not even a parent, but I know that when I disrespect my mother, how hurt she is. I know that how frustrated she gets when I take away her honor. So imagine God, how God feels when we take away his honor. We don't give the honor that is due him. When we fail to cover, if we know how we command our children to love, how we command our children to respect us, why can't we give God that respect, especially as a father? I'm just proposing a question.